This is a meeting of the Town of Dartmouth Soil Conservation Board, January 7th, 2025. This is a Zoom meeting. It's being recorded. I'd like to take a roll call if I could. Ms. Olmsted,
Emily Michelle Olmsted is present.
Mr. Mallon,
I'm present.
Mr. Mello,
Present.
and the temporary vice chair is present. If we could take then our agenda and go directly to new business item C. Mr. Michaud, would you care to introduce this?
Thank you.
Chris, are you there? Yeah.
Thank you. So this item C is the reorganization of the board. And I'm going to give a little bit of segue why we're meeting. You know, there is no actions of this board tonight aside from reorganization and approval of minutes. So in item A, we'll be talking about the Permit Extension Act. At face value, it would appear that we don't have a reason to meet because of this state legislation that gave 2 years onto the expiration of our permits. So with that being said, I'm concerned if we don't meet for the next 2 years, because what's going to happen is we could lose some of the members. The soil board is composed of 7 members from 6 different public bodies. So it is my concern that with the turnover of our members, that we could lose our chair, our vice chair, and our ability to approve minutes, since we only typically meet once per year. So with that being said, reorganization of the soil board would entail the appointment of a chair, a vice chair, and historically we have appointed inspectors, which have included staff from the Board of Health, myself, and Donna Farias, to administer the bylaw on a full-time basis as needed. And what that full-time basis will be over the next 2 years would be, monitoring of the surety bonds, which would keep these permits valid, and conducting the inspections. And that is all.
Chris, if I could, please, just a point of information. I appreciate we only meet once a year. However, there are some extenuating circumstances due to the extensions forthwith from the governor. Is there any way that we could meet in 6 months from now, just to keep the ball rolling and not let anything get out of hand, whether it be for the chair, the vice chair? I know we keep the permits going. We have to do that. But you think we could do it sometime in June, July, just to not let the time of a year go by and anything that may develop during that period of time that should be addressed?
So that would be at the will of the chair and or the board. It's a good idea because it allows us to get the minutes approved. So it can be nothing more than a 10 or a 15-minute check-in if there is nothing that's new business.
Now, Chris, would that normally be done as a either direction to staff or a motion at the end of whatever meeting is we're in at the time?
So
It can be done. It can be done by both. We can make a motion, Bob, if you want to, and if all agree, then I think it would pass. It should pass, excuse me, if all agree.
All right. So is there any discussion on the issue of setting a meeting in June 2025 time frame?
June or July?
It needs to be a motion.
I think it has to be,
Okay.
Emily. I do.
Yeah, and Richard, I agree, within a 6 to 8 week time frame, so it would be June or July.
Yes, agreed.
All right, so do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
All right, so we have a motion
I'll
by
second
Mr.
that.
Let's second the motion on that, Bob, if we could.
Yeah,
I will second that for you.
all right, so we have a motion by Mr. Mallon and a second by Mr. Mello that this board will meet again in a June or July 2025 timeframe. So we are on a Zoom call, so I need to take a voice
vote. Mhm.
vote. Ms. Olmsted, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Mallon?
Yes,
Mr. Mallon votes aye. Mr. Mello?
Yes.
Mr. Mello votes aye. Ms. Olmsted voted aye. The chair votes aye. So the item is passed. Chris, do you need anything else on this item?
So no, but we do need to, the board would need to make a motion to appoint, to select or designate a chair, vice chair, and staff.
again, point of information, please, Chris. Given the problem that may exist, some of us may be here, some of us may not be here. Can this also be deferred until June or July when we know what our membership it will be?
So what we could do is we could set it up. So you could do it, it's at the pleasure of the board, but at a minimum, I would suggest, appointment of staff, because it's something that we've done routinely.
Okay, all right.
And we want to make sure that staff has the authorization of the soil board in its current composition. But so I just want to present you with the two options. You could keep the status quo, or when we meet, or we could, so when we meet in 6 months, you could then put it on the agenda to reorganize again, if you wanted to, with the new composition of the soil board.
Well, go ahead, Bob.
Chris, I have a question. Have there been any staffing changes that would suggest that we need to do anything but stay with the status quo?
As far as the health department, no changes. It would be myself and Donna. And as far as the composition of the board, we are without representation from the finance committee at this time. And then I don't know when the appointments come up. What I do after every April election, what Donna does, is we will send out a blast to all of the contributing multi-member public bodies just to advise, make sure you have an active person on the soil board.
Right.
Well, I think that's perfect. My opinion, I think what you just said is perfect. But I'll leave it up to Emily and Kevin and Bob as to what they want to do.
I
Chris-
think what I was getting at was there's no reason to change any of the inspectors or any of the other field personnel, Chris?
That is my recommendation to the board, because this is an unfunded board. In other words, the Board of Health does take up the obligations when appointed to assist the soil board. I don't know of any other department that has volunteered. We do maintain all of the files electronically and paper. So, but I don't want to seem like I'm trying to corral the members into a vote. It's just the reality of the finances as to how the department, we are a small department functionality, but we do have, several active permits that cover, I forgot what the total is, but many hundreds of acres.
All right.
So Chris,
So from what I hear,
one possible motion we could do is to move to keep Chris Michaud and Donna Farias as the inspectors.
Correct.
So moved. Is that your-
have a,
Emily, I'm
motion.
sorry, I made a mistake. Go ahead, Bob.
Mr. Mallon, do you want to make a motion?
Yeah, I make the motion if it's agreed to that Chris and Donna Farris remain in the present positions that they're in right now.
I've motion by Mr. Mallon. Do I have a second?
Seconded.
Second by Ms. Olmsted. We'll take a roll call vote. Mr. Mello?
Yes.
Mr. Mello votes aye. Mr. Mallon?
Aye.
Mr. Mallon votes aye. Ms. Olmsted?
Aye.
Ms. Olmsted votes aye. The chair votes aye. Just as a matter of history, we were, the Public Works Board was challenged on an open meeting law issue about a year ago. So I've become a little more careful about how the motions are done on Zoom calls. So that's, if I sound a little stiff-necked, that's what's going on. It's habit. Chris, is there, I think I heard you mention earlier that there were board members that had been appointed inspectors. Did I hear that correctly?
In the past, that had been done when board members, wanted to go out and conduct their own inspections. That had been done.
Is there any reason that you would suggest we do that? And is there any interest in it with any board members for having that responsibility?
There's no reason not to do it. It doesn't obligate any of the members. It would give them the flexibility. But there's also, as a board member, if there was ever a need for access, it's my position that as voting members, that, there is an expectation of rights of access during reasonable hours where someone has sought or has a permit.
All right. All right. I don't hear any board members either offering to or suggesting anyone should be appointed.
Sir Chair,
Yes.
I would like to, I serve on the Board of Health, and so I would like this option if, just in case I ever wanted it.
All right. So, Chris, would we do this through a formal motion?
Yes.
All right. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second that.
Mr. Mallon has moved that Ms. Olmsted be appointed as a soil board inspector. Mr. Mello has seconded the motion. All in favor, Mr. Mallon,
Aye.
Mr. Mello,
Yes.
Ms. Olmsted,
Aye.
chair votes aye. You've been appointed.
Thank
you. Congratulations. Chris, is there anything else that you need to do on this item?
None.
All right. So let's go back to our agenda under new business. First item is a new Permit Extension Act for land use properties. Chris, do you want to help us with that?
Sure. So the Permit Extension Act is really, it's something that's not new, but I was kind of hoping in the fever of this current economy that we wouldn't be dealing with again, because this Commonwealth put a Permit Extension Act in place sometime around 2009, and it really made for a lot of management of permits well beyond their shelf life. At that point, it was done because of the abrupt economic downturn and the significant expense that was put into land use permitting. And what the Commonwealth wanted to do was to preserve the permitting so that applicants wouldn't have to undertake a substantial investment to reinvent that permitting approval on the state and or local level when the economy rebounded. However, this time This kind of snuck through in the Mass Leads Act. None of us were aware of it. And then Mark Garrett from the Conservation Commission came in one day and said, hey, surprise, this just passed. And we were like, what? Why would this pass in this economy? You know, that happened on Beacon Hill. We can only deal with it now. And the terms of it are that any permit that was issued between January 1st of 23 and January 1st of 2025 will extend for 2 years. So in the case of the soil board, the permits that are listed beneath the bullet for the Permit Extension Act in item A, Kingfisher, Phil D. Moranville, David Medeiros, J.J. Medeiros, and Vincent at the respected listed locations in the agenda were all expired on October 1st, 2024. Those permits will now have 2 years added onto them as a result of the Mass Leads Act, which will mean that those permits, so long as they remain in good standing with the bylaws and the terms of the permit, will expire on October 1st, 2026. So the next time this board will need to renew those permits will be in October or shortly thereafter of 2026. We do have a provision in the bylaw that states that as long as someone has applied for a permit before the expiration, 30 days before the expiration, they're allowed to remain in operations until the board acts. So that's why we're meeting here today in January, is that we purposefully put that into the soil board bylaw 10 years ago so that we wouldn't be telling people that they had to shut down because the soil board still needed to meet. They met all their criteria for their renewal, and it's just the administrative action of the board to then renew the permits. But in this case here, as mentioned earlier, I'll just close with the Permit Extension Act will negate the renewals until October 1st, 2026. Any questions?
None?
None?
I have none. All right. All right, so if we have no questions and there's no further action on this, on item A, we'll move to item B, which is approval of minutes. Let's see.
So I do want to just, make one note to the board about the minutes that there is one there is one error at the very end with Tom Hodman. We're aware of that. That will be corrected.
All right, we have 3 members present who are able to vote on this item. Do I have any comments?
I
Board
saw no
members?
changes.
All right, I have none. Mr. Mallon, do you have any?
I have no questions.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of December 19th, 2023.
So
So
moved.
moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Mallon. Do I have a second?
Okay, yep, I'll second that.
I have a second by Mr. Mello. Mr. Mallon, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Mr. Mello?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Minutes are approved. Next item is any item that the board wishes to discuss. Anything, any new items? Chris, do you have anything for us?
I do not.
All right. If there are no other items before the board, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Mr. Mallon has moved adjournment. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
second by Mr. Mello. Ms. Olmsted, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Mallon,
Aye.
Mr. Mello?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The meeting of January 7th is adjourned. Thank you all for your time.